Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Pathway Census Report session. My name is Paula Wilson. I'm our Member Services and Communications Manager. I'm joined here with our Associate Director, Miggy Capsuto, and our Programs Manager, Jade Garcia. So thanks for being here today as we present findings from the first ever Pathway Census. Most of you have received the report via email, but we'll also throw this in the chat and send this after the presentation as well. So here's a bit of our agenda. So in the next hour, we're going to share a bit of background on Pathways programs and the National Collective for Musical Pathways. And then we're going to highlight some of the findings from the census report. Then we'll discuss some considerations that Pathways program managers or anyone who's interested in building a Pathways program should take into consideration. And then we're going to have a brief conversation with some Pathways program managers, and then we'll have a Q&A session where you can ask any questions to our panelists or also any questions about the census data. Okay, so without further ado, here's a bit of context around Pathways programs and how Equity Arc is involved with them.
So as many of you on this call know, Pathways programs provide comprehensive and intensive musical training to young musicians from backgrounds traditionally underrepresented in classical music. In addition to the musical training, these programs also invest heavily in each musician's development as a human, so that they are prepared for professional performing careers. In 2022, Equity Arc convened programs from across the country to collaboratively explore establishing a national collective that would strengthen the ecosystem of programs across the country, raise the visibility of their impact, and also provide essential opportunities for shared growth. Since its launch, the collective has had major accomplishments, such as the annual multi-day National Pathways Festival in partnership with major orchestras. 8 programs were awarded over $1.8 million in operating support through the generosity and vision of the Paul M. Angel Family Foundation. And most recently, we completed this Pathways Census, which is a novel opportunity to report on the aggregate data of Pathways programs. The collective originally began with 12 members and has since grown to include 18 programs across the country.
Okay, so Pathways programs, they're not a new concept because some of the oldest Pathways programs have actually been operating for over 30 to 40 years. But there have been a number of new programs that have emerged in the last 10 years, and this is in part due to funding from the Mellon Foundation. And so the programs that are represented in the census data, they are largely based on the East Coast and also in major US cities.
To this date, organizations have observed the impact of Pathways programs and want to create these opportunities in their own cities. We hope to see expansion in the westernmost part of the US and are here to help anyone who is interested in starting one. We recently welcomed 6 programs into the collective and have several more in the process of joining or with an upcoming launch date.
Okay, so here's some of the feedback that we received from members of the collective about the value of being part of the National Collective for Musical Pathways. We hear that they enjoy connecting with members from other stages of musical development. For those who have newer programs, they found it very helpful to be able to learn from folks who have been operating Pathways for a longer amount of time. They also appreciate the opportunities for students to connect with each other, especially through the National Pathways Festival Orchestra. And then they also enjoy just learning from each other so that they can improve their individual programming.
When discussing impact, being able to report in a consistent way on both quantitative and qualitative data is critical. Based on our work with the collective over the past 18 months, Equity Arc developed this first census to gather information about the key components of programs, capture details about their similarities and differences, and also identify some of the considerations that lead to success. This first census provides important information that can guide the development of new programs, help to strengthen existing programs, and tell compelling, data-driven stories about why these programs have such a profound impact on their musicians.
Okay, so now that we're all oriented to the background of Pathways, we're happy to share an overview of this year's Pathways Census report. Okay, so to start, program components. We found that there are 9 program components most common to Pathways programs, all of which take a unique shape in each program depending on their needs. So 100% of the programs include college audition prep, mentorship, professional development, performance opportunities, travel assistance, and tuition assistance. 91% of the programs include ensemble training, instrument access and funding. 83% include music history and theory, with the lowest being 41% of programs offering programmatic support in mental health and wellness. We see this as an opportunity area for growth, and we'll share more later in our consideration section for the future. Student expectations and requirements to be a fellow in these programs. There's 5 common expectations of Pathways Fellows. All of these are considered high priorities towards a successful musical study. So attending events and performances, performing in various settings, practicing regularly. Of course, we know the benefit of summer music programs, summer camps over the summer, and being committed to the program and mission through their actions, of course. Family engagement is really essential to Pathways work. Caregivers and parents are expected to be present and involved in their students' study. They are expected to join in on community gatherings. This takes a number of different forms and different names depending on the program, sometimes called community or family meetings. These meetings cover a variety of relevant topics to music study and careers, and sometimes even serve just as an opportunity to connect with other folks in their own little community. Advisory meetings are also common. These are a unique opportunity to get everyone involved and on the same page in order to best support the student and to consistently check in on their progress towards goals. These meetings involve the students, parents, or caregivers, and teachers, all in one conversation, trying to find the best solutions. Another is, of course, just regular check-ins. Pathways managers are also keeping up with their students, both formally and informally. This would be a meeting to talk over college lists or just maybe even run into each other before rehearsal. Pathways managers make a point to stay in touch with their students and their families.
So in order to fulfill these program components at the highest level, it takes a major investment from the organizations. And so 67% of Pathways programs within the census, they are tuition free, and the others offer heavily subsidized and scholarship support for the fellows. Programs run an average operating budget a little under $500,000, and they serve an average of 33 fellows with that. And so Pathways programs, they spend a little under $9,500 per fellow each year. And those top 5 expenses, that excludes staff support. That includes private lessons, tuition for summer study, ensemble training, and year-round programming, especially for those attached to a preparatory program. The third expense is instruments, music equipment, or anything related to instrument maintenance. The fourth top expense is external contractors. This can be from guest artists, accompanists, any clinicians or consultants that these programs bring in to help the students. And then the fifth expense is travel. This is to go to summer study programs. This is to travel for college auditions, and now travel for the National Pathways Festival Orchestra.
So some interesting stats on our fellows. Just as a note, these stats are from the 2022 to 23 school year, and our survey included 371 fellows. And of course, these numbers don't tell the whole story, but we found some very interesting takeaways. So we confirmed the suspicion that most Pathways programs are primarily serving Black and Latinx students. There are many more strings in Pathways programs than wins. You can see here, we have a lot of violinists especially. Most of the students are high school age. Some programs have students that are younger, but there's always sort of an understanding that there is more rigorous expectations for high school age students, while there's an interest in fostering the love of music earlier on in their education. We also note that grade level and instrument are especially interesting to collegiate partners who are looking at these stats year to year.
Yes, and so Pathways for programs, they recorded a total of 452 alumni. And so this creates a really tremendous opportunity to build a national Pathways alumni network. That way we can engage with musicians at each stage of musical development. And 94 of those alumni graduated in the 2023 school year, and 88% of those graduates now study music in college. And so here are the schools where our 2023 alumni are currently studying. You can see that there's a variety of schools from private, public, conservatory, and liberal arts schools. I wanted to call special attention to Montclair State University because they do have the Cali Pathways Project, and you can see that they have the most amount of students that are going to their school, and they're creating a clear pipeline from Pathways programs to their university. The next highest attended school is Juilliard, with 5 Pathways graduates who are currently in their freshman year. And so it's really important for us to make sure we're staying connected with colleges because we are seeing that there is a great variety of schools that these Pathways graduates are going to.
We also found it very interesting to note that the investment in musicians as a whole person helps them to thrive on campuses, both in and outside of practice rooms. There are numerous liberal arts schools with fantastic music programs, and the opportunities to engage in learning opportunities help musicians to be well-rounded in their next steps and thrive on any campus that they choose.
So at the end of the report, we shared a number of considerations for the field after having all of our takeaways from this census this year. So first of all, staff capacity. We recognize that it takes a lot of energy and a lot of time to effectively run a Pathways program. Certain Pathways programs have dedicated staff assigned whose full-time role is administrating the program. And when programs do not have this full-time staff, they have less of a capacity for the individualized attention that sets these programs apart. And in turn, these programs can offer fewer services and programming. Program size is affected similarly. It varies depending on several factors, including the sustainability of funding, staff capacity, and infrastructure. Under alumni success, with more established Pathways programs like the Atlanta Symphony TDP, for example, we can see that alumni are finding success in the field. They've graduated and are having careers that actively are having an impact on the field of classical music. So this proves the efficacy of Pathways programs and bodes well for the future classes graduating each year and transferring to higher education institutions. In addition to enjoying successful and vibrant performing careers, many alumni of Pathways programs are shaping the field through designing and administering new programs and organizations that build equity and meaningful representation. age level. So there's a consensus that starting students in Pathways programs earlier in their education is a positive choice and will allow for more time to build those music and extra musical skills and to develop more fully by high school graduation. However, most Pathways programs do primarily serve students in middle and high school. Some programs are expanding into elementary as well.
With regard to integration with the home institution, we learned that there are different designs for Pathways programs, including those that are housed in other institutions. And one of the most crucial considerations is that the host or parent organization fully embraces and internalizes the mission and vision of Pathways programs. This alignment helps to ensure that the programs will continue to be sustained and supported even during transitory times. We mentioned mental health a few times, and as a whole, we're recognizing and acknowledging the importance of supporting mental health. For those in Pathways programs, investment in mental health supports is valuable to help ensure that young musicians are equipped for the demands of pursuing performance careers and also for the unique challenges that they may face, as musicians of color in this field. Finally, regarding fellow recruitment, we learned programs commonly identify fellows in 4 ways: through feeder and partner music programs, public school partnerships, word of mouth in the community, and through written communication. Ongoing robust recruitment, including investing in younger students who will be the next generation of fellows, will ensure that these programs can continue to have a robust impact on the field.
So that concludes our report overview. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'll let Dre transition us to the next part of this conversation.
Okay, so we figure what better way to talk about Pathways than to speak to the people that are on the ground doing the work. So I asked 3 of my colleagues from different programs across the country that are each very unique in their structure to share with us some details about their work and some thoughts on the future of Pathways as well. So I'll give them a moment to all appear on this screen. I know Miggy's helping us spotlight here. And then we'll get started with some introductions. Hi, y'all, welcome. So why don't we start with just a short introduction from each of you, letting us know where you're coming from, what program you're serving. Najib, can you start us off?
Sure. My name is Najib Wong, and I'm the director of the PMA Artist Initiative, or Philadelphia Music Alliance for Youth, out in Philadelphia.
Okay, thank you. And Eli?
Hi, I'm Eli Worth. I'm the Associate Director of the Tuned In program in Baltimore, Maryland.
Perfect. And Philip?
I'm Dr. Philip Ducray. I'm at the Nashville Symphony's Accelerando program in Nashville Symphony, where I'm a program manager.
Perfect. Okay, thanks y'all for being here and for sharing your thoughts with this room. So something we've talked a lot about is the different program structures across the Pathways programs. We see 3 primary structures of Pathways programs, meaning that they're either housed in orchestras, in colleges or conservatories, or within a network of different institutions that are all contributing their own resources. Of course, each program has its own unique structure, so I wanted to start by asking y'all to tell us about the structure of your program, who are your partner organizations, any primary stakeholders, and what makes your program structure unique. And I'll let whoever's ready to go first, go ahead.
I can go. So our Pathways program is part of the Tuned In program, which is our sort of community engagement arm of the Peabody Preparatory. So the Pathways makes up a small percentage of the Tuned In program, which ranges from ages 4 to 22, I want to say. And so the Tuned In program is then part of the Peabody Preparatory, which has about 3,000 kids in it. There's 8 large ensembles, a ton. I mean, you can study everything from violin to Baroque flute and bagpipes and things like that. So it can get pretty random. And then classes, from digital audio workstations to more like traditional music theory and things like that. So then the preparatory is then part of the whole Peabody Institute, which includes the college component. So the conservatory is there. Then you have Peabody being part of Johns Hopkins University, which then contains another 12 or 13 schools, I believe it is. And then the university is also affiliated with the healthcare system, which has stuff all over the country. So we are one like little piece and very, very little piece of this huge conglomerate, which can have, which gives us a ton of resources to pull from having all these affiliates. But one of the biggest challenges we have is just the level of bureaucracy we have to deal with, having so much to go through. So we are hugely, like kind of like what you said in the with the slides in the beginning, we are supported hugely by the whole that whole system that I just talked about. The president of the university has shown us off at many things to show how the university is really trying to engage itself in the Baltimore City. And so we are very supported throughout that whole system. But it takes a while to do anything because of the amount of just paperwork it takes to just pay somebody. We can't just write a check. It takes a good 2 months to get the amount of signatures to just get somebody $50. So it can be frustrating, but we have a dedicated development department that has a bunch of people in it that are raising money for us. We have tons of mental health resources that we can use for when emergencies come up. So it is more of a blessing to have all of that. But there is a lot of it can be frustrating at times. So that's kind of our overall structure and how we live in it. Hope it made sense.
It did. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm happy to go next. Well, first of all, thanks, Jade, and thanks for Equity Arc for, raising the visibility of Pathways program, bringing best practice together and help to continue to sustain this really important work, right? But PMA was the first citywide collaborative Pathways program, that's a mouthful, in the country. And we are 7 years old. Of course, the organizations that make up the collaboration are, over 100 years old, like Settlement Music School. We aim to support around 40 students, and they're currently participating in 8 partner organization programs throughout Philadelphia. So, for example, we have 2 community music schools, we have 4 youth orchestras, 2 chamber music programs, the college and entrepreneurship programs, etc. With Settlement Music School as the backbone organization, right? We think about things on 2 fronts. One of that is from the organizational perspective, obviously with the student in the center, the leadership from our partner organizations, come together in agreement regarding frameworks of community curriculum and resources that support that curriculum. So we do things like we're interested in tracking student mobility across the city, right? For example, student participation in top ensembles have risen 6 times since PMA started. So things like that we're curious about. But we also have a central team, myself and our manager, Kiara, that work with student advocates. We call them from each of these organizations. So there's a representative from each organization. And the student advocates are staff representative. It could be a conductor in one program. It could be a director of education. It could be a coach. So I think we have an opportunity to develop our collaboration over the past 7 years, not only at the staff level, but also at the faculty and family level, because, you know, there's a lot of faculty that is involved from various organizations also. And after so we've just sunset from our Mellon grant, and we've had to change, you know, this is a great example of one of the things that came out of this collaboration is that we had to reassess our financial aid structure. And we changed it from a scholarship model to a need-based model. And so we were able to get a lot of input from all the organizations, families, and staff and faculty. And, you know, it was really a community effort where we all agreed that, you know, everything was done for the best interest of all the families in the program, and even families that might be receiving less, they continue to stay with the program because they were part of that process and they believed in the mission of that. So so that's, I think a lot of this is, yeah, like, you know, I can relate to what Elijah was saying about a lot of moving parts, but the pros of being a part of a community citywide really outweighs a lot of the problems that we might face.
Yeah, and I think that if we're talking about Accelerando, we are just directly housed inside the Nashville Symphony without partners kind of navigating the governance of the program itself. But I did want to mention that our largest partnership, Vanderbilt University's Blair School of Music and their Blair Academy, that institution has a really robust pre-college theory, history, youth orchestra program. So that's our biggest partnership, and that's kind of where our kids get their academic information. Outside of that, our volunteers, our staff, and our musicians, which are mostly our faculty for the program, you know, that mostly comes from the Nashville Symphony.
Thank you all. Yeah, I'm hearing that there's lots of people involved in the work, and there's benefits and drawbacks to that too. And Najib, I like how you highlighted how there's a lot of student input that's important to how you form your program. And I think that's something that we see across Pathways programs, definitely. Okay, so talking about evaluation, right? As we're reviewing our first national census of Pathways programs, we strive to reflect the individuality of each program and its fellows, and to recognize that Pathways work is holistic in its nature. So my question for y'all is, how does your program track student progress and determine individual or programmatic success? And how do you recognize the whole student in your approach? Najib, can I ask you to start off?
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, I think, you know, this is a great question, right? There's so many things that go into it, I think. I think it's important to say that we're not trying to create clones of our graduates, right? Or shepherd them along a specific career path. What we're trying to do is really to provide them with the tools so that they might have options in the sustainable music career. I think one of the important outcomes that we look for is for older students in the programs to have some ideas of vision of their careers. And we try to do that by fostering their creativity, right? And to engage them with a lot of different people in the field, you know, mentors, some of them mainly performers, but, you know, others who have multifaceted careers. So from the program perspective, you know, it's important for them to be able to play well, be able to understand what it is to be an expert at their instrument of choice. So I think that's an important component. And then there are the other, you know, parts to that, right? Like the socio-emotional levels. We try to track them through surveys, you know, have community events, have peer groups, you know, for students as well as for families. do they have friends who they can go along this pathway with? And we're also seeing peer groups within the faculty, like specific instruments. When we had a master class with Sheku Kani Mason, like all the cello teachers were there. It was just great for them to be talking about their students and all that. So, and then the other part is also the immersion part, right? The participation immersion. How are they doing in attendance? Are they going to concerts? Are they sharing new things with us, right? So are they bringing new, oh, I heard about this summer camp, or I heard about this talent hunt or something like that they're constantly looking for new things. And the other component is also executive functioning, right? Can they communicate with you? Can they write an email? Can they make a phone call? Assignment deadlines, I think it's really important. So we want to create this, we're not trying to create clones, but we have some principles and some things where we think, oh, this is important for our students to have, so that they can just have more options out there. So I think what I want to sum up is, in this case, our program success really corresponds to student goals and the possibilities they have when they leave the program. Not sure if that's a concise way to put it, but that's how we feel about it.
Thank you.
I can go next. So I think our program is very similar when it comes to the tracking and especially the milestones. We have juries, advisory meetings, we're tracking college applications, their scholarships, and all of that. And I think that, those data points certainly give the best idea we have of the progress of the program as a whole. But I also do think that, as my colleagues can probably attest, accurately understanding the individual student successes is a really nuanced thing. And I think that, now I'm getting, I can take a look at the Airtable, but it's really through the stories that I'm able to generate by talking, to each of the students. These informal kind of touch points are becoming huge in at least how I'm understanding the individual track of each student. One thing that we've kind of tried to do this year is small group meetings. Every student is in a group and we meet once a month. We have them report out, how's everything going? What are you working towards? What are the difficulties right now? And I have to say, there are difficulties in, a high school study or student participating in a cello rondo too, that I had no idea about. And, hearing those difficulties, those successes, and having that regular open forum, I think has given me more information or maybe more information than I have in my Airtable. It has been really, really eye-opening to kind of understand what those boundaries are, and, what those barriers are. Is it, are there transportation things that are holding back, or what are the issues, and how are other students, and I love our students for this, they give advice to everyone else on, oh, this is what I did. And I think that those points have been really, really eye-opening for our program.
That's always really special when you can see them starting to find their own solution and sharing that with their colleagues as well. Eli, finish this off.
By far, our biggest barometer for success is attendance. We have huge transportation issues. The mass transit in Baltimore is terrible, so the kids have to get rides. They could take a bus from a couple miles away, and it would take, it could take like 2 hours for them to get there. So there's huge issues with getting kids to the program. Plus, we have pathway students that are living out by the Delaware border. So, which is, a good, far from Baltimore. So if we're getting the kids there, we're very confident that our program is going to get them down a path to success if we can really get over that attendance hurdle. So we put a lot of resources into getting Ubers and things like that, because that is by far our biggest issue. We have a lot of assessments as far as like recitals and things like that, where we give the kids feedback, but the transportation piece and attendance is our biggest thing that we check, and making sure that the kids are actually getting there and participating.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a meeting not too long ago, and I was very interested to hear about that. And I think that perfectly expresses how there's different hurdles in each city, just based on the community, based on the environment, and the different barriers that stand in students' way. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about the present and about this last year's data and the programming that we're doing really actively. But it's always wonderful to dream big, and we encourage folks to do that at Equity Arc, right? So as you look to the future, what is top of mind for you concerning the future of Pathways? Philip, can you start us off?
Yeah. So I'm probably going to say, and something that's front of mind in a lot of different ways these days, is access to professional level instruments, quality instruments, not just through the end of their time with us, but into college, just opportunities to have that, because I think that that's such a make or break thing, especially starting in college. You begin to be stacked up against very expensive instruments, and if you don't have that opportunity, I think that is just huge. I mean, I was just thinking of myself and my brother, who's also a professional violinist. We have one good violin that we ship back and forth depending on who has a recital or this or that, because instruments are expensive. They're ridiculous. But I think that has to be the biggest thing, because that is such. It's very visible when the instrument is not there. It's unfortunate, but I think it's true.
I'd say for me, it's making sure we're staying abreast of the changing landscape of what it is to be a professional musician, and that we're actually preparing the kids correctly for the world that we're trying to get them into, and making sure that the program is evolving while the field is evolving, and that we're not using antiquated methods or antiquated material to put them into into a world that doesn't want that.
Mental health for staff. No, just kidding. No. I would say longevity. I think longevity. Having enough time to establish the foundations that we've done so far, we've put in place so far. Part of that is financial, but part of that is establishing like the process, the best practice, the culture, support groups, because we're learning from our mistakes, right? And we're adapting to the needs of the community, and we're trying to build, at least for our program, we're always trying to build trust with the community, with the program partners and all that, right? So I think longevity is really important. We hope to be TDP 30 years or Project STEP, those programs. So hopefully that Pathways programs in every city can sustain to that levels. And also want to give a shout out to our collegiate partners, for collaborating with us and helping welcome our students. I think it's such a big important step for them to be able to feel belonging there. And also our summer program partners, because it's such a transformational time for our kids, our students, I should call them our students, to really step away from our cities for the first time and see all these possibilities. So I think and not to forget our access programs, because that's where it starts. So I think for us is building connections and collaborate and build trust with all these programs, so that it can be just nationally, it could be a national movement, right?
Thank you all. Yeah, I'm hearing I'm hearing a lot of thoughts that are very in line with our Pathways conversations as they've been throughout the last years. I remember when we were in Cincinnati, all the Pathways folks all gathered together and we had a conversation about how Pathways work is really about being sort of relentlessly flexible and responsive to the circumstances around us. And I think that all of you are doing that very actively in your program. So I commend you and celebrate you. Okay, so we're going to move on to a Q&A in a moment. I just wanted to give you all a chance, panelists, if you have any last thoughts, please feel free to take that space, and we'll open up to Q&A with the room here. So any last thoughts, y'all? Thank you for being here. And opening up to the room, this is our Q&A portion for the whole session. So if you have any thoughts on the panel discussion, any of the census findings that we shared, we're curious to hear.
Oh, I don't know if it's a last thought, but I had a thought. And the thought is that I think I in the past, I looked around and I saw, all these great programs, Pathways programs, but I think I came to the conclusion that if we can do something to help a student, doesn't have to have all the resources of the great programs out there, what makes it work for your own community. I think that's the most important part. And I also want to say that I have benefited so much from the knowledge of all my colleagues in the field. I feel like every time I have a problem and someone has the answer to my problems. So I feel that we're a pretty tight-knit group. And if you have any problems, call James. That's my answer.
That's always a good solution, Najib. Thank you. Hi, yes. Please unmute.
Hi, I have a question about the data. There was a slide around the schools all the schools that the alumni have attended, and I'm sure you mentioned it, but I just wanted to clarify. Are the students that are either in those schools or are they majoring in music, or are they double majoring as a performance major? How did any of the Pathways programs kind of support maybe a portfolio type of college experience? Does that play into the conversations or the mentorships for any of you?
Sure, so I can start off and I'll let any of my colleagues jump in as well. Each Pathways program has, a different requirement or lack of requirement around if they must major in music. So there's many programs that require in the junior year, a student says, yes, I definitely want to major in music. And then a lot of the energy is focused on getting prepared for those college auditions, the applications and all. Other programs don't have that requirement. And we sort of see that the skills that you're building in studying music very actively and being dedicated reflect very well in college preparations and for every major, for every career path as well. And they definitely receive support in college preparations from their program managers. I know as far as our alumni from this last year, our 2023 graduates, Paula, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was 88% are studying music, right? Yeah, so 88% of those students are majoring in music.
Well,
Correct.
my question, thank you, Jade. My question actually, Paula, too, is are they performance majors? Or are they, because music's great, of course, but I wanted to know, like, are they actually also maybe pursuing a different aspect of the music career? And are they minoring in it? Are they majoring in it? What do you get to that level too? I'm curious because at Astro, we mentor young professional musicians who are just a little bit on the other side of it. And people are our musicians are definitely performers, but they are so much doing other aspects of music in their as making up their career, which you all know what a portfolio career is. So I'm just curious, when they enter the college experience, are they going in as performance majors? Are they thinking differently once they get there? And how involved are you in, in that performance aspect? Not that you have to force it, because I don't think, of course, nobody's saying that here, but a wide range of experience in the music field it's gonna be great for us anyway. So I hope that was clear. I'm interested in performers.
Okay, yeah, I would say the data is definitely a variety because we've collected, of course, data from the census, but we also have some information on our National Pathways Festival Orchestra alumni, and we see that a lot of them do major in performance, but there's a lot more double majors that are coming up as well, and some folks that are doing minoring. And so I don't know if any of the program managers who are on the call want to give some additional insight to where your alumni, where they're normally fitting in when it comes to their majoring.
I can say that from my program, I'd say a third of the people we graduate every year are not studying music or are doing some type of double major. And of the 2/3 that are, only probably half of them are doing performance. I think there's usually some type of education or recording or something like that tied in with what they're doing. So I'd say only about a third we're putting into performance.
Thank you for that, Eli. Could I just make one comment on that? I just think we ought to celebrate those folks as well, because I mean, we're celebrating everybody, but I just want to say you guys are building audiences. We are desperate for people to invest and come back to live music. So whether they, take a different pathway, whatever it is, it's audience building. And I just want to say gosh, is that important too. So thanks for that. I'm glad to hear it.
Any other programs managers want to share a couple thoughts about where your graduates are going?
I mean, I can share a little bit. I think most of our graduates do end up choosing to go into performance. Some of them do choose to go into education. We've seen, we're a fairly young program, so most of the students still stay in those majors, but we've had other students transition to additional majors like music history or gender studies or some sciences. And yeah, we definitely encourage those things because there needs to be diversity in those other fields too, related to music. And some even one of our graduates is now a conductor, right? Nazir of Detroit Symphony. So not even staying with their instrument. So it's really it goes back into like giving them all the options that they can have, and then they make the best of what they do with that, right? So
Okay. What other questions and curiosities do you all have? And thank you for the question. Glad we're talking about where the graduates are going. I'll do a variety of good things.
Hi, I was kind of curious, Philip, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit more about those groups you have set up of students and sort of where that originated, how you structure it, and what the you talked a little about the response, so but just a little bit more details.
Absolutely. So I have to say that this was generated out of talking to some students a lot, and their parents a lot, and then not having a chance to talk to them, the ones who aren't maybe as vocal. So right now I have them split up into 11th, 12th grade, 9th, 10th grade, and then 5th through kind of 8th. And really those have just been wonderful touch points, just monthly touch points. Everyone looks forward to them. Usually how I structure that is everyone reports out. about just kind of what they're doing, what they're working on, what challenges they're going through, what they're preparing for. And then we usually, have maybe 20 minutes on a topic. We'll watch a video together if there's not a lot of talking. And then to kind of end that, if I can not hop off my soapbox, I usually give them 20 minutes to, talk amongst themselves, and I leave the room.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Philip, are these meetings in person or online?
All virtual.
Virtual.
Yep.
Okay.
This is really a perfect look into what our Pathways Manager meetings end up being, is someone has an awesome idea, and then we ask them how they did it, and then we do it at our program. And that's the beauty of collaboration. So thank you for that question, James. And thank you, Philip, for sharing. Okay, I'll give one more second for folks to think of any last questions, and then I can share some closing announcements. Okay, well, thank you all for being here and for taking the time to learn more about this wonderful work and to share some of your ideas. If you are someone in here who is interested in starting a Pathways program, please be in touch. I'll drop my email here in the chat. If you're interested in starting a Pathways program, or if you just want a set of ears to bounce ideas off of, I'm happy to do so. A lot of my work here is really focused on enhancing the Pathways Collective and offering support to all these wonderful managers and students and families. So please do not hesitate to be in touch. Our next National Pathways Festival and Summit will be held on April 6th through 8th in Nashville in partnership with the Nashville Symphony. Early registration is currently open to our Pathways and collegiate partners since we have a limited capacity in the hall this year. And our next member meeting that you can look forward to is on January 31st from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you all for your time and for your ears, and please do stay in touch as you do these wonderful things. And once again, thank you for your time.